So I'd like to introduce you to my daughter, Brenna.
Hello, I'm Brenna.
And Brenna, what do you want to be? Oh, you're almost there. I can't even ask you what you want to be when you grow up. So what are you studying in college?
I study architecture.
When are you going to be an architect?
About 10 to 15 years.
Really? But you're in your senior year of college. How come it's going to take you that long?
So actually, I can't legally call myself an architect until I have a license, because of actually things like scale, and to make sure that I know what I'm doing.
Okay. So you're going to talk to us today about scale, because that's what my kids are going to learn about today. So why is scale important to an architect? Like, why do you care?
So scale is, without scale, we wouldn't know how to speak to each other, because it allows us to basically talk to each other on the same platform, because we can't draw all of our drawings one-to-one in real life, because it would be too big.
Okay, so then what is scale? Let's ask that question first.
Scale is a unit of drawing something that says that this dimension is actually this dimension. So for example, a common scale in architecture is 1/8 of an inch is equal to 1 foot.
So 1/8 of an inch on your drawing would be a foot in real life.
Right.
Okay.
So in the case of my drawings, which are here, so these are all at different scales, but there are drawings of the same building. So this drawing here is at, I think, 1/4 of an inch is equal to a foot. So 1/4 of an inch is equal to a foot. So this dimension here is 18 feet. If I go back here, this is 1/16 of an inch.
Oh, look, so here's the scale. It's right on your drawing.
Yeah, so I'm actually maybe 1/8. Oops, oh well. So, it gets more complicated with 1/16, because there's no actual scale, because as you can see, so this is called a scale. And it is a ruler with different scales on it, so that when I'm doing drawings, I can basically just say, I want this dimension to be 8 feet, without having to convert it on my regular ruler.
Oh, okay.
So 1/16 of an inch is actually, when I do 1/16, I use the regular ruler, because there's no point in having the same thing that says the same dimension.
I see. So what is this drawing of?
So this is of my studio project from a year ago, so spring of 2019. And it's a newspaper headquarters in Providence, Rhode Island. So this is the model that I built.
So does this building really exist, or is this something that you wanted to build?
No, it's theoretical.
Okay.
It will never be built. So this,
Oh, that's the back. That's not very
yeah, it's
interesting.
not very, it's up against another building. So this is a model at 1/16 of an inch is equal to a foot, which is the same dimensions as this drawing and those drawings over there.
So this is the top of the building, or just a cutaway of the...
This is what's called a site plan.
Okay.
So normally, if you're working with an enormous site, this would be at a much smaller scale, so you can show basically just context of what's around the building that's being built.
Okay.
So this shows like the streets and everything around it, compared to these, which are floor plans, which show each individual floor and what's going on in that floor.
Oh, I see. And so you have a sense of how those... how the things that are in these relate to each other. So like,
Right.
For instance, the gym is slightly, almost 4 times the size of whatever this green room is.
Right.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Brenna.
You're welcome. Okay. So something else that scale allows us to do is depict different things. So with a really small drawing that's at a smaller scale, we can't always show the same elements, because in a drawing they would be way too tiny. You couldn't see them. You couldn't see the detail that we have to go into to design buildings. And any person reading the drawing wouldn't understand what you're trying to show. So, for example, these elevations, which are at a smaller scale, they're at 1/16 of an inch is equal to 1 foot. And it just shows the outside, basically the design. It doesn't really show any structure. It kind of shows these elements here, which are actually beams, but doesn't show what they might look like. Compared to this section, which is at a different view, this is at 1/8 of an inch is equal to 1 foot. And you can see that I'm starting to show the structural elements that you can see on the side, but they're just blocks. And now here, they're actually in the shape of what's called a wide flange or an I-beam.
And you've got little people in here, so you have also another sense of how big these floors are.
Right, so in a presentation, which is what these drawings are for, when my critics are looking at my drawings, they don't actually have to look at the written scale, 1/8 of an inch is equal to a foot. They can look at my scale people, which are all 5'6", which is the average height of a human, and get a basic idea of...
Not Mrs. Whitney.
or me, I'm 5'2". So they can get a basic idea of what these spaces would look like, and the relative dimensions and stuff like that in the scale of the human body, which is the easiest way for us to understand scale.